Hi, I'm Leander Caney from Cult of Mac. This is Apple Vision Pro. This is my home in San Francisco. And this is my home in Vision Pro. Here's a TV, which is a lot bigger than the regular TV. If we go over to the front door, here's a list of items I mustn't forget when I leave the house, which I do every single time. If we go through to the living room, dining room, what am I saying? Here we have my M1 iMac. This is where I work. And here is the M1 iMac screen, which is being shared in Vision Pro. And as you can see, it's a lot bigger than the 21-inch screen. Here's email. Here's Slack. Here's Trello, which looks better when you get down. And here's Safari. And if we go into here, here's my reading station with today's news. Oops. And then here in the kitchen we have my music. We have a timer over the stove. We have a shopping list here of stuck to the fridge. And out here is the weather. Pretty cool, huh? Apple's secret sauce is its ability to make products with very easy to use interfaces. And it started back in the 80s with the Mac and the mouse and point and click, and continued with the iPod with the scroll wheel, and then the iPhone with multi-touch, and now with Vision Pro, with Vision OS, which makes it really easy to interact and almost magical with this, where you just look and pinch and things happen. Vision OS is close to mind reading. It's actually really uncanny the way that it follows your eyes and can just see where you're looking, and then you do a really simple gesture, just a pinch or drag your hands around, and the way that it follows you is incredibly intuitive. The Vision Pro's UI is really, really well thought out. It's really, really well designed. It's so intuitive, there's absolutely no learning curve. It took me, who's like an old geezer like me, about 10 seconds to figure it out. At first I kept on putting my hands up in the air and trying to touch things in space. But when my daughter took to it, she's a digital native, she took to it immediately. No learning curve whatsoever. Vision OS reminds me of the first iPhone, when the kids snatched it from my hands when I first got it, and they were immediately using it. And it's just like that. There's absolutely no learning curve whatsoever. By contrast, the Meta Quest 3, which Mark Zuckerberg has poured billions into developing, is horrible. I really didn't like it at all. As soon as I put it on, I was completely confused. I didn't know what was going on. I had to use controllers. It's not intuitive at all. In fact, it made me hate the product from the very beginning. By contrast, Vision Pro, put it on, immediately feel at home. I felt very comfortable, felt very, very easy to use, and I was quite happy using it. The great thing with Vision Pro is that you don't have to use any controllers. It's just like Steve Jobs said about stylus with early smartphones. Like if you see a stylus, you know they blew it. And the same thing is true with headsets. If you see controllers, you know they blew it, because it makes the experience horrible. It's so much better, so much nicer just to use your fingers. Much more natural. Using Vision OS is delightful. I mean, I was really delighted by it. I just got such a kick out of it. It's just fun just to play around with the UI, with the interface. That's fun enough, almost. That almost justifies the $3,500 price, just to play around with Vision OS itself. And then the next part is the experiences themselves, the things you get dropped into. And it starts with, I started off by playing with the dinosaur experience, where you have a window into this Jurassic world and a butterfly comes out and it lands on your hand. And it seems really realistic. And of course, if you move your hand, the butterfly follows to land exactly where your finger is. And then these dinosaurs come and the things come out of the screen at you, and it's visceral. It seems so realistic that you recoil in horror and fear, and it feels so realistic. I mean, it's digital. You can see it's digital, but yet it evokes this gut reaction in you, this instinctive gut reaction that makes you terrified. And the same was true with the kids too. When my daughter tried it on, she absolutely fell over because she was moving back so fast. And another video I watched was of a tightrope walker over this 3,000 cliff in Norway. And it gave me vertigo. It was horrible. It was absolute, because, it's a cliche, but it's true. You are there. You feel like you're there. It's 8K, immersive, 360-degree video. So the experiences they're so immersive, they're so realistic, they're unlike anything you can get with any other product. I've never, ever experienced it with any other tech product. Part of the magic of the immersive videos is that it's so detailed. The screens, the pixels on the two screens where your eyes look are smaller than red blood cells, and it's incredibly detailed. And so, you don't really see the pixels. It is as clear as the clearest IMAX screen or the biggest theater screen you've ever seen. And it's 8K. The videos that they're shooting are 8K, 360 degree videos. You just don't see the pixels. It's so realistic, it's almost like you're there. Everything is super bright and clear inside the headset, including the pass-through video. The pass-through video is great. When you looking at your surroundings around you, especially when the light is good. I mean, you can tell it's video if you look closely. There's some tracking effects, there's some pixels, but for the most part, it's so clear that it makes the world easily navigable. You can totally see what's on your screen. You can read your iPhone screen. You can read the screen on the Mac. You can see a keyboard. I'm not a touch typist, so when I'm typing, I can see the keyboard that I'm typing on. It's not perfect, but it's very, very good. So one of the other great experiences is when you see, you go to an animal sanctuary, a rhino sanctuary in Africa, and they have these baby rhinos come up, and my God, they're right in your face. They're absolutely totally there. And again, you recoil, you move back. It feels as though you can reach out and pet these things. It's an amazing, incredible experience. And so, a cliche again, but it really does feel like you're there. So one of the other great things that I did, first of all, was, sit in my living room, I lay on the couch, and I put up this massive screen. It's like your own personal IMAX. The screen appears to be 100 feet wide. And I put on Avatar, James Cameron's movie, which is in 3D, and I had no interest in seeing this whatsoever. And yet, watching it on Vision Pro, I was completely immersed in it. I mean, the 3D effects are stunning. It really does look three-dimensional. And the experience is wonderful. It's it's much better than watching it like a big screen TV. It's so detailed, so clear. You have your own personal movie theater. And, watching TV is one of the great experiences so far, Vision Pro. The sound in the headset is really great too. The two speakers here on the side, they sound phenomenal. And they support spatial video. So it sounds as though it's not coming from the speakers too close to your ears, but actually from space. So when I'm watching Avatar, another movie, a TV show, it sounds like, the sound is coming from in front of me, from the screen, rather than from somewhere very close to my ears. One of the big questions people have about Vision Pro is whether it's heavy and whether it's uncomfortable. And, to be honest, it doesn't register with me at all. At first, when I put the strap on, the fabric strap here, I tightened it up too tight, and it did pinch on my cheeks, but that was easily adjustable, and I got that figured out. But the weight, I haven't felt it at all. It hasn't registered. Of course, the caveat is I haven't been wearing it all day for 8 hours. I've worn it, for a couple of hours at most, and the weight hasn't been an issue. So my big question with Vision Pro was it going to be any good for work? I wanted to know whether I was going to be able to sit and work in this, because this is going to justify the $3,500 cost, whether I could replace a bunch of screens. And the answer is yes and no. I did the Mac virtual display, and I brought my Mac screen up inside the headset and was able to project it huge, and I could get work done inside of it. And then, of course, it's limited at the moment right now to one screen, your main screen on your Mac. So even though I have multiple screens at my Mac at work, I couldn't bring up all three screens. I could only bring up one. Saying that, I could put up separate windows for apps that are supported in Vision OS. So I had a separate window for Safari, I had a separate window for Twitter, I had a window for Slack, I had a window for Trello. And so it was actually better than my 3 monitor setup. I had like 6 monitors around me, and everything worked really well. The problem is that it wasn't better for work. Putting on Vision Pro isn't better than sitting in front of 3 large screens. To be honest, right now, I kind of prefer to sit in front of 3 physical screens than I do to sit in front of 6 virtual screens, no matter how big they are. So Vision Pro supports Bluetooth trackpads. It doesn't support mice. It supports trackpads and keyboards. And that actually works really well. It's much better than pecking out on a virtual keyboard with your index fingers. The trouble is I'm not a touch typist, so I had to look through the pass-through video to the keyboard to be able to type. And that worked fine. That works good in a good light. It's not so good in a dark situation. But with the trackpad and the keyboard, it makes work a lot easier. The funny thing about Vision Pro is that when you take it off, everything is so boring. You're back to the old boring grey world. The walls are plain, there's no massive screens everywhere, there's no massive IMAX theater. The world is just dull and grey without it. It is addictive. When I first got it, I did not want to take this thing off at all. It was so super fun. There's so much to explore, so many apps to play with, so many things to look at. These immersive experiences are completely transporting. And so, you take it off and the world is grey and boring without it. Vision Pro is and isn't isolating. I wore it all weekend and I had no trouble really walking around the house and talking to my family. In fact, no one even really noticed the eyesight, the goofy eyes on front, until I pointed it out to them. No one blinked an eye when I'm sitting there at the dinner table eating with a Vision Pro on, or lying there on the couch watching a TV while everyone else was just sitting around reading on their iPhones. So it wasn't isolating. The trouble is that you have experiences that you can't share with anybody else. Everyone keeps on saying, what are you seeing now? What are you seeing now? And they can't see what you're seeing. So that's why it's isolating. The experience is sort of devastatingly personal. When my daughter put it on, I kept on asking her, what are you seeing now? What are you seeing now? I think it's really clear that this is the future of all computing. Like, at some point, I think this is going to replace iPhones and maybe iPads and computers. Except it's going to be a pair of sunglasses that you put on, you'll be able to see through. But it's going to be projecting, you'll be sitting on a park bench and you'll have a massive Mac screen in front of you. Someone will call you up, you'll be able to swipe and answer the phone call. At some point, I think all computers are going to be like this. This is definitely the future. This is the future of computing. The trouble is that right now I'm in the middle of a VR honeymoon. I'm completely besotted with the device. I think it's absolutely wonderful, the most amazing thing I've ever encountered. But I know it's going to wear off. I know right now, in the middle of the VR honeymoon, I'm completely enamored with the device, and there's so much to explore, so much to play with. That's why I'm really taken with it. But am I going to put it on in a couple of weeks from now? I'm not so sure. Would I recommend the Vision Pro? Unfortunately, no. Unless you have the money. If you have $3,500, yeah, absolutely go down and get it. You're going to love it. You're going to absolutely be besotted with the device. But if you don't have $3,500, which I suspect a lot of people don't, I recommend you go down the Apple Store and you take a demo instead.